Hey, hope all is well. Glad to make it. So I have my glasses on again so I could read. I hope everybody could hear me. If I could get a comms check from somebody, if somebody could do a thumbs up or say that they hear me, that'd be great. It is 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on April the 12th, 2024. And glad to be here today. Thanks for making it to all of you. I just want to make sure that people can hear me. So again, if somebody could maybe type in the chat if you can hear me, that'd be great. So I'm assuming that we can. And for those that don't know, there is going to be a recording of this, and that will go into the regular Veterans Info Tap channel. So you might be watching this as a recording later on. But right now, as of this moment, we are live. Thank you, Joyce. I appreciate it. All right. So I'm being heard. All right. So this is the second one of these that I've done. If you were on the first one, thanks for making it to that. So let's jump into it. I'm going to start just going through some of the questions here and comments, try to call them out and get through them for you. Not sure how long we'll be on. I would say at least an hour, and we'll go from there. So thanks, Mike G, for the hello, and family's doing well, and the rooster is as well. He tried to chase me down this morning, and I had to let him know who's boss, which is basically just stare him down for a minute. He backs off. So anyway, Brian Jordan, you've been going to the VA psychologist for 3 years now, and you are ready to file for VA disability. Good. Hope you have an intent to file in. If not, do that. Buys you a little more time if you need to get stuff together. So number one, put in that intent to file if you don't already have one. And then how do you go about it? Well, that's number one. So you can call the VA directly. If you Google search VA 1000 number, it ends in 1000. You can call them and let them know that you want to put in an intent to file, and that will preserve the date and allow you a year, 12 months to get your actual claim filed. You can do it online, or you can work with an accredited rep. You can Google search that as well. It says here there are 2 veteran organizations that want to help. Should I do it myself? I always suggest that second set of eyes. It doesn't mean don't be prepared, right? And this is for everybody. It doesn't mean don't be prepared and don't understand how to file a claim and don't know what you can file. No, do all the research, watch videos like the ones that I put out and other people too. Look, I'll say it now. I'm a fan of everybody who puts out information because generally it's good information, and sometimes you'll get different viewpoints, and that's good too. So do that. I would work with an organization as a second set of eyes. So Metal Mike, I submitted your ITF, that's intent to file, May 25th, 2023. Ooh, you're coming up. You got a month. Submitted your claim September 1st. Oh, okay. So you submitted your claim in September of 2023. You were denied 11 January. Hey, I think I remember seeing this comment a while back or something very similar. Denied 11 January 2024. So you have a year from that to do it. So then you did your supplemental claim on March, which was just a couple weeks ago. You submitted your supplemental. Is May 25th, 23 still effective? Yes. Yes, it is. So you have preserved your effective date. The problem happens when people get irritated that they were denied. And then what happens is you set it aside, you forget about it for a while. Next thing you know, you've missed your time period to file that supplemental claim in response to the denial. You have 12 months. So again, Metal Mike, actively pursuing your claim and still within the 1 year of the May 25th intent to file. Hey, thanks, brother. I appreciate you. Georgia. So intent to file and within 1 year from the denial on 11 January 2024. Let's see. So actively pursuing the claim still within the 1 year of your May 25th. Yes. Intent to file within 1 year. Oh, and by another, I guess another thing to think about is if you get denied again, then you can always push it to the Board of Appeals. So you still can preserve that effective date. Remy 86 went to a recent bilateral shin splint CMP exam, rated 10% for knee strain, combined them with your already service-connected shin splints and denied rating increase for shin. Is there a way I can get them separated to have they're on a standalone rating? So if you'd have to look in the schedule of ratings, I don't have it off the top of my head. You'd have to look into the schedule of ratings and see if there is a standalone, which I believe there is, rating for it. And you'd really need to get your doctor to say that it is, absolutely a separate condition. It doesn't hurt to file that appeal read your decision letter, see why they did not give you it, why they denied you, and then utilize that to build upon the additional evidence to submit with your supplemental claim. Work with your doctor to supply any additional evidence that you need. So if you need a letter from your doctor, that type of stuff. All right, I'm 50% service connected for sleep apnea. Good. Service treatment records show complaints for insomnia. Can I claim insomnia? Not anymore. So the insomnia rating, I did a couple videos on this, and chances are, I don't know. Who knows? So look, here's the thing. I'll push out videos, and the thumbnails will be vague but truthful, because I need as many people to look on it so they understand what the heck is going on for their claims. So I did one that was recent and talked about secondary conditions. Basically, the secondary condition for this is gone, and that was insomnia. They have removed it as of, I believe it was January 10th of this year, 2024, as a secondary condition. Now, the only leg that you might be able to stand on would be if you filed for insomnia in the past and were denied, and you could still preserve that effective date. So if you have an effective date that would be prior to that January 10th, you might be able to leverage that. There's no guarantee, but you might be able to leverage that earlier effective date versus their change date. For example, I have a secondary condition for insomnia. It's the only mental health rating that I have is insomnia. So it is what it is. And that was a secondary due to my back. But if I were to file that today, they would deny me because they are not allowing those secondaries any longer. It's the only way to get insomnia would be as a direct service connection. And they are very explicit on, you must basically prove that in a hard way almost, that there is no other avenue for that to be considered a secondary in any way. It says that you're also 10% service connected for chronic sinusitis. During your CMP exam, symptoms were characterized by pain, headaches, tenderness, crust. Yeah. Can I claim headache secondary to sinusitis? So here's the thing with secondaries for everybody, right? This is an important subject. Secondaries are different, right, than your standard service connection. Instead of providing a nexus for your time in service in that condition, in other words, you need to prove that your condition manifested during or as a result of your time in service. Instead of doing that with a secondary, you need to prove that your new secondary condition is a result of your service-connected condition, either because of the condition itself or maybe the medication that you're taking or whatever it is. And the best way to do that is to make sure to work with your doctor and have your doctor even write a letter that says that because of this condition or this medication for this condition would be the service-connected condition. This new condition, the secondary condition, has came to play. So Mark Shippey, what's going on, brother? Trump 2024, you got on there, apparently letting people know that it is election season for sure. Joyce, thank you for letting us know about filing the intent to file. Never would have known about it. And guess what? Spouses can file intent to file for dependency indemnity compensation or survivor's pension. So that's also an important thing to understand for folks. So again, Eric, thank you so much. I appreciate you so much for that. Again, this is the second time that I've done a live stream. So I'm in the first one I didn't have the super things. So I don't really, whatever. I'm fumbling through and I'm just doing the best I can, right? At least I'm in front of a friendly audience and I'm not getting sharp shot. So there's little pictures up at the top, and I'm not sure what happens when I click on them. All right, I just did. 12 Bravo, Georgia. Again, thank you, brother. It said gifted 5 veterans InfoTap memberships. Thank you. And then we got Eric with the $9.99. I really appreciate it, truly. And again, I still don't really fully understand how this stuff all works, but we'll get through it. All right. So how do we get representatives to add rushes to HR 7793 that address the amount of time it takes for an appeal claim? So how do you get them to add rules to it? Well, you would suggest it, right? And the rationale behind it. If it were me, what I would do if I had ideas on what to add to a specific bill, I would probably do a couple things. One, I would talk with the local veteran service organizations, let them know, get their support behind it if possible. And then I would request a meeting with that representative to discuss, or my local House of Representatives, in this case, HR 7793. So my congressional member, and on the House side, schedule a meeting with them and go in there with a few people from the different service organizations to discuss it with the rationale of why, right? Most often your House of Representatives representative is not a veteran, and they don't get it, they don't understand it, and they rely on us as the subject matter experts. Pedro, I like your shows. Positive information never speaks bad about the VA. Thank you. Look, and I guess, I don't really talk bad. It is what it is. It's a people business. It's not the organization. It's the people. And, do they get it right all the time? No. But we need to know what we need to do to navigate it, right? And that's really what it is. I don't think that they're necessarily out to get us. I think that it's just, it is what it is. All right, moving on. William Wells, nice to see you. Jessica, thank you for the doing great. I appreciate it. The little things go a long way. I know that that's probably hard to believe, but that does help. Thank you. All right, so William Wells was denied for sleep apnea due to obesity, but recently, what's funny? For those of you that have known me for a while, I started a second channel with Clay from the CivDev called Veterans Daily, where we have dialogue, and we actually talked about that subject, sleep apnea getting denied due to obesity. Yeah, absolutely. But recently had GERD exam, and it was marked in there that I had problems sleeping. Can I refile for sleep apnea with the new? You know what? Here's my advice on anything like that. You can take as many bites of the VA apple as you'd like. It doesn't matter how or why or anything that they denied you. If you have new evidence to supply, look, if they deny you, they're going to tell you why, and then it's up to you to go, okay, I can combat. You're playing tennis with these people. You're going back and forth. They don't care. They're not going, well, you applied for this 7 times and we denied you every time. We're going to just deny you again. No, they're going to look at the new evidence, and if it makes sense, it makes sense. So utilize the denial to take a knee, adjust fire, get the evidence you need, and hit it back over the net to them. Absolutely, I would refile. Especially before any hard changes take effect for sleep apnea. I mean, that's a big one. And same thing with GERD. I mean, for those that know, and I got a little pushback from doing like 3 videos on the fact that we have changes coming to the digestive system next month, and you must, if you have any of these things, my suggestion is file now, because you will get the best of both worlds. If you put in an intent to file today, or you file your claim today and it gets decided after the rule takes effect, which I can't remember what the date is off the top of my head. I want to say it's May 19th. If it gets decided after that, which it would, the VA will rate you against both rating schedules and give you the better of the 2, which is, I mean, how often do you get that, right? All right, so moving on. Brian Young filed several times and denied, refiled recently, and hoped to hear the ruling again soon. Filed originally in 2019, hustled in and out of the VA, Jamaica Plain since 70s. Yeah, oh geez, yeah. Now, and that's the thing, is that we get frustrated and we leave the whole process and move on. I'm guilty of it. When I got out of the Marine Corps in 97, I filed a claim, was denied. I didn't really know what was at stake, to be honest. I was in my early 20s and I wasn't really that interested. I didn't really understand. Nobody sat down to talk to me, and I let it go, and never followed up on it again for another 15 years after I got injured in the National Guard, where I actually filed again. So if it wasn't for that, I never would have. So the moral of the story is, you can take as many bites of the VA apple as you like, and if they deny you, figure it out and refile. All right, moving on. Thomas, let's see. Did you ever look into Vera? This is an invaluable tool. We veterans that want to talk to a human being about their claim status. Oh, Vera. This is the automated situation, I believe. No, I never really looked into it, and I will mark it down. So I apologize that I'm typing as I'm doing this, because again, welcome to my world. Not super savvy with this stuff, but I'm figuring it out for all of us. So I just typed in there Vera so I don't forget. All right, moving on. Let's see. Coconut John started paying attention to you last October and jumped from 0 to 90%. Outstanding. Great job. And, the thing is that a lot of us self-segregate out of the process completely. It's we do rate and we do deserve it, and we do deserve high percentages. I mean, look, there's a lot of high ratings out there, and you got to go after them. Nobody's going to do it for you. So outstanding, man. Great job going from 0 to 90. My question every time I hear 90, really any condition or any percentage, is what's the raw rating? Is it 94 or is it 85? Because that's a big difference. Moving on, Ricky Bell filed over a year ago. My guess to the end of that is you are still waning. If you're still waning and it's been over a year, my next question would be, have you had a CMP exam yet? If you have not had a CMP exam, I would probably reach out to the VA or contact my accredited rep and have them look into it for me. If I can't do either one of those with success, I'd reach out to my congressional member, to their veteran liaison, veteran affairs person at the constituent district office, and have them reach out to the VA on my behalf. Ray Mitchell, thank you for everything that you do. We really appreciate you. Thank you. I really appreciate the feedback. Truly, I mean, this is the whole reason I started doing this. I'll be fast. I know I can ramble. Is because I was an accredited veteran service officer, running a team, an office, and doing all of that, and it blew me away how many people were just unaware. And it wasn't just where I was at; it was in my state. It was in the nation. It was everywhere. And so it's just to be another voice out there trying to spread the word and get it out there at the biggest level I can. And this is it. So I appreciate it. All right, moving on. Let's see. Lots of comments. I'm trying to get through them. I appreciate it. All right. So Hollywood, like it. Going to use a Q. So for those that don't know, CUE is clear and unmistakable error. Clear and unmistakable error. For my recent 70% on my undiagnosed mood disorder claim back to the day I left active duty. So with Qs, they're hard to win. It's just the way that it is. And my suggestion is always consult, at least have if you can get a soft consultation from a lawyer on the likelihood of the Q, it's usually helpful. Moving on here, Don Clark, any idea why the VA send me to a hearing CMP with questions regarding my PACT Act TARA? The only thing I could think of, well, it depends, right? So is it a CMP exam done by a VA worker, or is it a contractor? If it's and it could be, this could be the answer for either one. This is going to be a guess. Maybe they're being instructed to ask those questions. That would be a curious thing. So maybe they're trying to double down on asking kind of like the exposure questionnaires and so forth. Okay, moving on. 71-year-old. I have ratings for PTSD, Agent Orange diabetes with leg, neuropathy. I can't even talk. Well, for those that know that I have problems with some words sometimes. And ED 0. Not sure if that's a 0%. Now I have TDIU, but my question is, am I safe with my ratings at my age? Most likely, yes. I mean, really, the 55-year-old rule comes into effect. There's nothing over that. 55-year-old rule says that basically, unless it's a unusual circumstance, they're not going to reevaluate you for anything. And the fact that you're TDIU, I mean, as you're getting older, it's even less likely that you're going to, miraculously be cured and go on to find work. Ray Mitchell, we absolutely must stick together like we did. Yes, I agree. Absolutely, Ray Mitchell. We absolutely must stick together like we did when we all served, right? We all have each other. Look, there's plenty of other people out there that are loud and get things done for their causes, and we collectively, I mean, you can have your own causes on the side, but collectively we have our veterans and surviving spouses and dependents causes. So I agree. Marty, it says here, if my, I'm guessing Raider, omitted some very important evidence and denied my claim, should that be an appeal or higher level review? So if you are absolutely sure that you submitted or they received, right? A message sent is not a message received. It depends how you send in your claim, right? If you faxed it over for some reason and the pages got stick together and they didn't receive a page and they're missing it, that's one thing. So if you're absolutely certain that they have the information, you could do a higher level review and request an informal hearing where you'll have a conversation with a higher level reviewer, and you can point it out to them that, hey, look, all the evidence is right here on this spot. They must have missed it. But if you're not 100% certain, then they might not have it for some reason. It disappeared. Then you'd want to do the supplemental claim instead and provide additional evidence. Just go get more evidence regarding whatever it is that they missed and submit that with your claim. Moving on, Monty is awarded 10% service connected. 1979 after surgery that was in 2021. They lowered you to a 0 even though you're on meds and infusions for Crohn's. So they lowered you, and so the question is what is the, and I mean, it was 10%. So it was 10 and now it's 0. You need to pull up the schedule of ratings, and in some cases, here's the deal. I get it. The schedule of rate, and this is important for everybody. The schedule of ratings is the most important probably thing that you can look at. Gives you your condition and all the different ratings that can be assigned. So it's going to give you the criteria for each rating. So what's the criteria for a 10%? Okay, here's what it is. Okay, what's the criteria for a 0? Okay, now either that makes sense that they reduced you or it doesn't make sense. And if it doesn't make sense, you can usually, right, what's going to happen is you're going to have time. This is too late now, but if you get a proposal for a reduction, you would want to jump through hoops on that and make sure that you appeal it right away to preserve what you have while they're making their decision, and then be able to combat it going and getting additional medical evidence. Moving on, Diedrich, do you think HR 7793 should address the amount of time appeal claims are processed? So I have some rain, so sorry for the white noise. I feel like I just need to yell louder. So hopefully it'll stop in a minute. So that's a hard one, because do you really want a time frame, a hard set time frame, and then have them backed up against the wall on it and rush to decide and err on being too stringent? I don't know. I mean, I think that's it's kind of a hard one. Yes and no, right? So yes, it should be. There should be a time frame on how long it should take. But again, I would be looking for quality over the time frame. Hollywood, again, higher level review is the best idea. Frank Brown, gotcha. in reply, I'm guessing, and I appreciate that. I just, I don't know how else to get through these. So Danica got 70% for PTSD and sexual trauma. 70% is a great rating on today's current schedule. For anybody who is rated on the mental health rating schedule, 70% is really good, because 100% currently requires you to have a social and occupational impairment. So, and not only having that impairment, but it has to be total, right? So total occupational and social impairment, meaning that you basically can't work. So 70% is the next best thing. However, the mental health schedule will be changing, and if they change it to as proposed, you could absolutely, in my mind, right, this is just me, I believe that a lot of 70s will be turning into 100s after that rating schedule change. Moving on, plantar fasciitis secondary to back or knee. Any thoughts? I'm not a doctor, but if you can get any doctor to say that this is because of that, you have a good opportunity. So it's essentially, again, I talked about the secondary conditions. The nexus moves from your time and service nexus to your service connected nexus. So if you can get a doctor to somehow, some way state that your condition is due to another condition, you're golden. All right, moving on. What is the current time frame for a BDD claim? So look, BDD claims fall in line with all the other claims. It's just that what's happening, for those that don't know, BDD is benefits delivery at discharge, which has been around for a little while now. It's a great option for folks, and it should be utilized. You can file your claim 3 to 6 months prior to your discharge date, not your terminal leave, but your discharge date from the military. So ideally, you're going to file it 6 months prior to your discharge date. That way, your claim is working in tandem as you're starting your kind of exit process from the military. Ideally, right, by the name itself, ideally within a month or two of your discharge, the VA has decided your claim, and you have a check with maybe a month or two of retro pay in there. They will back pay you to the day after your date of discharge. So if it takes them 2 months after your discharge, you're going to get 2 months of back pay. The time frame, I would say that you're probably looking at, if you filed at the 6 month mark prior to your discharge, you're probably looking somewhere in the neighborhood of a month to 3 months after your discharge for it actually to show up in your bank account. Moving on, Cav Scout, hey, good to see you from New Mexico. So cancer, PTSD, headaches, tinnitus, all denied. Well, that's pretty fun. So the most normal reason, which is weird, the most common reason for denials for many people is lack of nexus, because we don't prove that we had this condition manifest during our time in service, or shows up shows up due to our service. So most of the time it's the nexus piece, right? So we didn't provide any evidence that these things appeared. The other reason would be lack of a diagnosis. That's the second reason why people get denied. Sometimes you think the VA is going to help you with your diagnosis, and they don't. So what do you need to do to have a successful claim, right? To get it service connected? You need to have time in service, gives you that window of opportunity. You need to have a diagnosed condition. And 3, you need to have a nexus, that link between the condition and your time in service, that window of opportunity. So you need to show the VA, my condition manifested during my time in service or is a result of my time in service. Now, ideal situation is, right, you got diagnosed while you were in. That's the ideal situation. So anybody who's doing a BDD claim, go get diagnosed for everything now, because you're in. It's a lot better than trying to build the bridge back to your time in service. So once you get out and time goes by, if you didn't have anything written in your service treatment records about complaining of, in this case, we'll say migraines. If you didn't complain about migraines while you were in, then you need to prove how else can you prove it? So now you need to go to your doctor, get them to write the Nexus letter. You need to talk to friends that you may have known or know, and or family members that knew you when you were in, and write letters on your behalf regarding these different things. For PTSD, if you were in a specific area or a specific situation that would have contributed to causing PTSD, great, but you need to go get diagnosed. You need to go have some conversations with a psychologist or something. Go see the vet center and start documenting. Moving on, DDRICT HR 7793 fails to address all of these nightmare stories about waiting 2 years to have an appeal processed. More ways to appeal is great, but addressing the time is smarter. Yeah. So again, back to the addressing the time, sure, but what's causing the time, right? So I mean, I again, it's the amount of staff, right? The people that are actually making these decisions. So is it a staffing issue, or is it a time issue? It's probably a staffing issue. So I'm hesitant to say put a hard stop time, because what if they're short on staff and then they got to rush to make decisions? Those rushes might not be favorable. But I don't know. So John Hughes had a DTA error on August 3rd. There has been no movement. Is there a time limit for development of the claim? So there's no real time limit, but if there's been no movement and it's been a while, if you're saying August 3rd, I would probably call the VA or speak with your accredited vet rep or veteran service officer if they helped you. If they didn't help you and you want their help, here's the thing. If it's a legit full-time accredited representative or veteran service officer or what have you, they have remote access into the VA system. So all you have to do is sign over an appointment authority, appointing them to represent you. It doesn't take away any of your rights. It just allows them to look into your file for you. They could then remote desktop into the VA system and pull up your file and see what's going on with it. Moving on, John, let's see, I'm losing my foot from Agent Orange. That is no fun. You're going to need to look at special monthly compensation, SMC, special monthly compensation. And again, I would suggest working with an accredited rep to get that filed. I'm sorry to hear that. Moving on, EAZ, let's see, frustrated and literally I'm leaving the whole process and going to die in Mexico because of the horrible way I get treated. But look, I get it. It can be rough for many people, and try a different location, try somewhere else. It's what I have found is it's usually it's a people thing, right? So it's not an organizational thing, it's a people thing. And when you find the right people, it's going to be good. October, Opal, hi Vets, how are you doing? Questions, all right, nice. So atomic sailor radiation, I have, I'm not even going to try to say it. Polyglycemia, maybe, and something else that will turn into leukemia. So again, if it's not a presumptive condition, right, then what you want to do is you want to work with your doctor to have them write the nexus letter. Remember, presumptives remove the need for a nexus. So if you're able to utilize your doctor, let them know, hey, I was exposed to these different situations. Here's an article on it that I found on Google. Here's some research that was done by whoever. A few Google searches can find you some good stuff. Give that to your doctor. Ask them for a nexus letter. And remember, the threshold is very low. You're looking at least likely as not as the threshold. So most private doctors should not have an issue agreeing that the likelihood of you having whatever condition is at least likely is not due to your military service. I mean, simply based on, you know, the 1,000 jabs that we get and the different exposures that we have, right? Moving on, what's the purpose of the Terra memo? Will it help? You know, I will have to do a video on that one. So I'm going to type a little note for myself on the Terra memo, and I will do a video on it. There we go. All right, moving on. Let's see. Jimmy, what's the purpose? Okay, that's the one I just said. Better strategy, sleep apnea, second to mental health with obesity as, okay, so this is giving a strategy for the earlier comment. Plantar fasciitis with the obesity and energy, both conditions cause weight gain both. Okay, sure. TMR, message retracted, so I don't know, you know, maybe that got answered or something. John, here, other foot is starting to be the same as the, oh, great. So, you know, just sorry to hear it. That's horrible. Keep it documented and make sure you look for SMC when the time comes. Let's see, moving on. Only friends, family, neighbors of the employees get compensation. Well, I mean, that's not fully true. I don't know anybody. So, and there's plenty of people that we helped in my organization, thousands, back when I was running an office. So yes, you know, Pappy Cody, yeah, they really screwed us on the insomnia rating. Agreed. They really made it hard to do as a secondary anywhere, which is super bad. All right, moving on here. Longbow, 125 days is the goal for claims to be completed. Right. So there is a goal. So the VA itself. So I'm assuming Longbow may either work at the VA or maybe they just read it or what have you. But so that they do have a goal, right? So as employees, and they can miss the goal, but there is a deadline. There is a goal for them to decide claims. Let's see. Let's move on here. I'm trying to get all of these. I'm going to start to run out of time probably. Let's see. Star Fury, what's going on, brother? Glad you made it. It's a lot of scrolling to try to find. There's so many. You guys are nuts. All right. All right. Got down in 84, was in Grenada, Honduras, Beirut. Never was told about VA until last year. Horrific. Horrific. That's a slim finger. You know, and that's the sad thing. And again, that's kind of the driver here, is that we need to let each other know. And, you know, speaking of the unknowing stuff, right? It's so sad to me how many veterans don't know. And the ones that do know a little bit. And then there's us, right? There's the us group here that, I mean, we are the enlightened ones. I'm telling you, there are so many people that have no clue and are not out seeking information. And then we have spouses that have like left in the dark. And imagine a spouse whose veteran spouse didn't do anything with the VA. They have zero clue about any of the spouse benefits. So yeah, hopefully that will change. Moving on, I don't think service members separating know how important filing a claim is first year. Yeah, I agree. So the first year you have a bunch of additional presumptives, and there's also kind of like that you essentially have an intent to file automatically in place that first year. So as long as you file a claim within the first year of your discharge, if you don't do a BDD claim, and let's say you wait and you got out and then you filed it 11 months later, you will get back paid to your date of discharge. And there's a list of presumptive conditions as well for those within the first year. So important. And almost even more important is if you're still in, I can guarantee you, everybody that's watching this right now, if you could go back in time and have 1 month left or 2 weeks left of active duty time, you would go to the doctor, whether it was on base, off base, on a weekend, paying out of your pocket, whatever, and getting checked for everything, check my blood, check my thyroid, check everything that's going on with me. Let me get diagnosed for everything that I have going on. Everybody would take advantage of that opportunity. And, you know, It's kind of like looking back in the mirror to yourself and saying, hey, this is what you need to do. Moving on, Chester, 20% for DDD, and you have other back issues. How can you find secondaries, and how do you translate your my medical records to VA claims? So I'm going to use, with regard to any condition, if you're somebody who's not 100% permanent and total, but you have several conditions already with the VA, what would I do? Okay, what would I do? I would Google search every single one of my conditions and add secondary conditions or conditions caused by whatever my service-connected condition is. So I could start to educate myself on what's out there, because you might not realize, one, that you may have some of these situations, or to keep a lookout for them if they do arise. So one, you'll start to see secondary conditions in a different way and be enlightened. And two, if you're taking any medications, start looking at all the side effects to those medications. And if you come down with any of those things, then you need to absolutely move forward with secondary conditions for those. For degenerative disc disease and other back issues, any really back issue problems, if all you have is essentially your back claim with your range of motion 10, 20% rating, you probably want to get checked for arthritis. If you have any numbness or tingling going down your legs, you have radiculopathy, get diagnosed for those things, right? Arthritis and radiculopathy, those are secondary conditions. So let's move on. Okay, true 90%. So you're right at 90. So that's not a bad spot to be. I mean, a little more work and you might be able to get up there. A good thing to do is, so for somebody who's at 90% and thinking about, okay, well, what's it going to take to get to 100? Reevaluate yourself against the schedule of ratings for all of your conditions. Read the schedule of ratings for all your conditions and see where you fall. Make sure that your ratings are correct. And if any of them are low, file that increase for those existing conditions. And then again, to double down on the one we just talked about with secondaries, Google search secondary conditions to all the other conditions. No CMP exams. Got it. Ricky Bell, moving on. Arthur, started at 0% when I separated. It's taken me nearly 30 years to get to 100% PNT. Never give up. Look, sometimes the road is long, right? Sometimes it takes time for one, the VA to get it right, but two, maybe you're not 100% today because you're not. But most of the time, things aren't getting better, and so you just need to stay on it. So moving on. Once a Marine, 95. All right. Nice. Got denied for hearing loss. Not good, but service connected for tinnitus. Good. All right. Went and got a hearing test in the private sector, and the audiologist has recommended hearing aids. Is hearing loss worth appealing still within a year? Sure. I mean, you're within a year. What the hell? But the thing is, hearing loss is probably one of the crappiest rating schedules. That and any of the range of motion stuff are all just horrible rating schedules, in my opinion, because there's such a big range that the VA looks at on what they consider normal, right? So it's not like here's normal and here's not. It's kind of like here's normal, and even if you're on the lower end of normal, you're still normal. And so even if you do get approved, it's going to be most likely a lower rating, even with hearing aids, which is really funny in not a funny way. So, all right, moving on. Oscar, hi there, fellow Marine, Semper Fi. What's going on, brother? I'm going to get married soon or married soon and 100% PNT. Does me adding my fiance affect me getting? No, that won't affect you getting reevaluated. But what you do need to make sure you do is put in for your dependent benefit, right? So add your spouse on there, and so you can get the little bump in pay. And then remember that now your spouse will qualify for CHAMP VA, the health insurance, kind of a supplemental health insurance if you have other health insurance already. If you ever are in a situation where you have no health insurance for her, it can act as a primary health insurance. And don't forget Chapter 35, great benefit. She can get enrolled in a school and get $1,488 per month while she's going to school full time. online, in person, doesn't matter. Community college, just has to be a school that's approved with the VA. All right, Metal Mike. Let's thanks, class. Cass Richards, I appreciate you so much. All right, so Metal Mike, thank you for the information on the intent to file. You mentioned if denied again, I could submit to the BVA. Yes, so that's good. And preserve your ITF. Yes, and yes, and yes on the HLR, the higher level review. Anything you're doing to keep the ball rolling within the time frame specified is going to preserve your intent to file date. One thing I'm going to throw out there for folks, this is a little tidbit, and I get it. Some of my videos, maybe I sound like Charlie Brown's teacher halfway through, so people may drop off. Sometimes I try to add stuff in that so it all makes sense and dovetails together, and sometimes I'll go down rabbit holes. But one thing I want to throw out for folks regarding your intent to file, the intent to file is super important. And if you have an intent to file in and you're getting pressed up to the end date, right? You need to file. And let's say that you're on whatever, 11 and a half months, right? And your intent to file is going to expire in 2 weeks. And let's say you had 5 conditions that you were going to file for. And of those 5 conditions, you have documentation for 2 of them. You have your nexus, so you have your medical diagnosis, all that good stuff. Everything's good to go. You're solid on 2 of your 5 conditions. Your other 3, though, maybe you had to order from the National Archives your records and you're still waiting on stuff and you don't have everything. What do? File your claim with all 5 of your conditions, even though you're going to get denied for 3 of them. Why? Well, we've been talking about it. Because let the VA deny you. Who cares? Still work on getting your evidence, your nexus evidence. Still work on getting everything you need, because when they deny you, you're going to turn around and file a supplemental claim that's going to preserve your effective date. Okay, very important. All right, moving on here. David Santiago, keep fighting until the 100%. That's my opinion. I mean, look, and here's the thing: is everybody 100% veteran? Right? 100% rated or rateable veteran. Not today, but things get worse. And I went to a CMP exam for my back, and the CMP examiner said, look, as you get older, your back condition is going to get worse. And you're going to start pushing yourself out of chairs as you age. And your elbows are going to start to go, and your shoulders are going to start to go. Those are going to be secondary conditions for you. Don't forget. And that stuck in my mind. So, as we age, we're going to get closer and closer to that 100%. So keep that in mind. Johnny, what's going on, brother? You're at 90%, and it's the hardest time getting to 100%. Isn't that the truth? That is the hardest jump. The closer you are, the harder it is to get there. I agree. You just got to keep trying to chip away at it and look for opportunities in your own self, right? Always reevaluate your situation with the schedule of ratings to make sure that you are rated appropriately for every single one of your conditions, right? If you left out 2 words in a GERD rating, maybe you should have been a 30%, but they're rating you at a 10% because you didn't say the right words on today's current rating schedule. So important. David, again, below 100%, see if you can get TDIU due to unemployability. True, if you don't want to earn any income, right? If you're good to go where you're at and you just need 100% to live, sure, that is an opportunity. Moving on, I was diagnosed with hiatal hernia by the VA doc. I have symptoms of GERD, but was not diagnosed with GERD. I am rated for depression and back pain. Should I still try to file for GERD? So there's also a rating that is for hiatal hernia. So you could file if right, being diagnosed for something doesn't mean that it's service connectable, right? It's part of the process. So if you can trace your hiatal hernia back to your time in service, right? So did you have signs and symptoms during your service? Then yes, you want to go after that. You might not have documented it when you were in service. Maybe you mentioned some signs and symptoms at some point. You'd want to find that, go through your records, and make sure you have whatever you can to establish a nexus. Work with your doctor, get the Nexus Letter, friends, family, buddy statements, that type of stuff, and go for it. Hiatal hernia is the same rating schedule as GERD currently. So GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease, is currently being rated under hiatal hernia. However, sometime next month, I think it's the 19th, May 19th, they're changing it to esophageal stricture, which is a completely different rating schedule, and in some cases will be much more difficult for folks to achieve a decent rating in, unless they have legitimate tightening of the esophagus that's requiring a balloon to blow your esophagus, to dilate it, that type of stuff. So if you file for GERD today, or in this case, your hiatal hernia, hiatal hernia is going to be its own thing. If you filed under GERD, then what's going to happen is you'll be rated on both schedules, and they'll give you whatever's higher. Johnny, our VA doctors here in Rockford will not do DBQs. Many VA doctors across the nation will not do DBQs. They will not write Nexus letters. They will offer you zero assistance, really, with regard to your VA claim. So what do you do about that? Well, you can go pay out of pocket at a private doctor. I had to do that for my GERD. I just scheduled an appointment with the doctor, went in there and had a couple appointments, and then utilized that information to file my GERD. So if you can't go to a private doctor because maybe it's a financial issue for anybody out there, right? If you can't go to a private doctor, what can you do? My suggestion would be read the schedule of ratings and understand, because here's the thing, a DBQ is garbage by itself. This is an important thing to remember. It's just a blank form, okay? Who cares? It's a garbage form, okay? DBQ means zero if you don't have the right information to put into it. Where does that information come from? It comes from the schedule of ratings. So read the schedule of ratings, read where you fall for whatever condition you have, copy and paste it, write it down, do something. Take it with you to your doctor appointment. And when they ask you how you're feeling or how are things going, say, you know what? I would love to tell you. I would like to make sure that all of this is included in my medical record. Please and thank you. It's very important to me. I want to make sure that we're tracking all of my signs and symptoms. And then read slow. Make sure they're typing it in their computer. Then in a couple weeks or whatever, request a copy of those records so you can make sure that it's in there. Now you have medical evidence that has the schedule of rating information that corresponds with the rating that you deserve from the schedule of ratings. It's no different than having them put that into a DBQ and then handing it to the VA. It's just going to be in a different spot. Not as, sorry, my leg itches. It's just going to be in a different spot, right? It's going to be in your medical records. So that's what I would do. Lunchbox, how's it going? You were forced to bend. Yes, you were. I bet you were forced to bend your knee to the point of injury during a C&P exam. What can I do? I actually, I think I did a Q&A. I think it was 18 questions and answers on the C&P exam, and that was one of them. You can actually, there is a spot that you can complain about that, and I don't remember it off the top of my head. I will do another video on that C&P exam complaint. I don't remember exactly where to go for that, but I did do a video, like I said, it wasn't that long ago, probably within a month, that was about that. So yes, you know what? If a C&P examiner pushes you to the point of extreme pain or injury, you need to notify the supervisor of that place and notify the VA as well. Put in a 4138, which is your basically statement, and describe your experience at your C&P exam. And, if they're pushing on you, putting their hands on you, pushing you down, fall. I mean, don't let it rip something or cause you more pain. Just go to the ground and be like, no, I can't. I mean, you're going to be irritated, I'm sure, but you'd want to talk with their supervisor and let them know, because they can't be doing that. All right, moving on. Filed SA secondary to PTSD, submitted sleep study, DBQ, Nexus Letter in the claim. The VA scheduled an ACE exam. Thoughts? Well, see what happens. I try not to overthink really anything until I get results, because that's what's going to determine the course of action, right? If it comes back and they're like, boom, you're done, right? I don't know if the sleep apnea has, man, my leg. Oh, I don't know if the sleep apnea has any like a CPAP or anything, but whatever. They can come back and be like, hey, you're 50%. Great. And you just move forward. If it's anything other than that, then you're going to figure it out. Thanks for the information. You're great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Alan rated anxiety disorder at 50%, diagnosed with hypertension, had multiple cardiac events. No fun, by the way. Should I file as secondary for hypertension or separately? Thanks for all you do for us. You're welcome. Thank you. Let's see. So diagnosed with hypertension. So, well, I mean, look, if hypertension's a presumptive, I don't know your service history, but if it's a presumptive, if you're Vietnam era, well, then it's a presumptive. So it would just be its own service connected direct connection. If it's not, then what's going to happen is you're going to need to prove the nexus. So you'd have to show that you had abnormal readings, right, during your time in service, maybe through an annual health assessment or something, or you're going to do it as a secondary. And if you do it as a secondary, then what's going to happen is you're going to have to get your doctor or psychologist or both. And look, I'm in the camp of the more evidence for you, the better. So if you had a psychologist who you saw for your anxiety write you a Nexus letter, and then you had a doctor that sees you for your hypertension write you a Nexus letter regarding the connection between your anxiety and your hypertension, then great, do that. Get both of those. It's probably going to be the easiest way. Because otherwise you're going to have to do it separately as a direct service connection, and that might be hard if you don't have anything in your file. So I would probably, based on limited information, I would probably try to get Nexus letters from both of those professionals on the psychological side and on the healthcare side and file those. So Mark, let's see, just got service connected for tinnitus at 10%. What evidence do I need to get connected for headaches and anxiety, depression as secondary conditions? So I've been talking about this, kind of seems the theme. So the theme here has been kind of secondaries. And what do you need to do? You need to prove to the VA that your secondary condition is as a result of your service-connected condition or the medication of your service-connected condition. You need to get your doctor to say it's because of that. That is the best way. It's essentially a Nexus letter tying those two things together. So that's the evidence that you need with any sort of rationale or anything like that. And in addition, you'd want to, depending on the circumstances, you can also pull up studies, right? So maybe some college or university did a study on this condition causing this condition. And that would also be evidence. So you can find that. Google search, links between this and that, or study regarding links between this and that. And if you find stuff, that's evidence for you. Read it, right? Don't just assume it's all rosy and good for you. Read it, because it is absolutely evidence that you are supplying to the VA. Once you submit it, you can't take it back. So you submit it, you want to make sure that you let them know that you, or when you submit it, you want them to know that that this is going to be for you, not for them against you, if that makes sense. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. Brazil. That's awesome. Just to check for understanding, if I have an intent to file open now and I am working on getting a GERD diagnosis, then file for GERD in June, will be rated on the current rating schedule and then the new rating schedule in May. Yes. So if you file an intent to file now, it is preserving the effective date. That's the important piece. As of today. So if the intent to file was today. Intent to file today, your effective date's today. If the effective date's today, the rating schedule is what it is today. But because there's a change that's going to happen, they're going to look at you on both. And then they're going to decide which one is the better one. And they're going to rule in favor for you that way. So awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. And I'm assuming that's you who, again, whatever. I'm going to play the new guy card still. I'm new. I don't know. I saw the little thumbs up. I'm thinking that's you who clicked it. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right. All right. Moving on. Got connected. This is October Opal. I got connected before my CNP and it was not sure. And it was canceled. What now? I got COVID before my CNP. Oh, and the CNP was canceled. What now? Okay. There should be a phone number on whoever. It's hard to know. Sometimes it's going to be the contractors, right? So there should be a phone number, and you just need to call them and let them know and get it rescheduled. So you would get it rescheduled. Moving on here, if you get retroactively retired off Q, does VHA back pay you, or is it a separate fight? If you get retroactively retired off of the clear and unmistakable error, does VHA back pay you, or is that a separate fight? Well, it depends what the Q was for. I mean, there could be a Q for back pay. So it depends what the Q was for. I'm not quite sure exactly the full, I mean, it's hard, right? Sometimes with these, a little snippet, and then you got to try to figure out the entire big picture. It's so nuanced. So anyway, so it depends what the Q was for. If the Q wasn't for that, then yes, then you're gonna have to go back and that would be a separate fight. David Santiago, all right. VA directive says they must do them. Yeah. Oh, you're talking about the. So this is for Johnny. I'm assuming this is the DBQs. I know it says it. There's so many that don't, and it's unbelievable. And the only thing I could say is that if they don't, if you want to go try to fight that, which we should, right? We need to be loud about it. Is take that directive, right? The VHA directive, and send that to the to whoever's the head of the healthcare section there, right? Whatever I'm trying to remember. It's the VISNs and all that stuff. So you could do that and see what happens. But they give so much power to the individual locations in the leadership there that it might fall on deaf ears. So moving on. From Dave here, my heart goes out to all you guys and gals. I feel at all times we're being pushed out of the hope of any retribution long enough to die. So it's the whole, just kind of keeps kicking the can down the road until we die. And I know it can feel that way. And hopefully you keep fighting along the way, and it turns, we got to fight fire with fire, right? Which is why I preach consistently about utilizing the schedule of ratings, how important that is. Don't rely on a DBQ. I know people talk about the DBQ all the time, but really it's just a place to put the information. That's all a DBQ is. It's a blank form where people can put the information. What information are they putting in there? The information they need to be able to rate you at the correct rating. Well, where's that? The schedule of ratings. So if you had one thing that you could pick to work with, you would pick the schedule of ratings 1,000 times over just having a blank DBQ, not knowing what to put in it. So again, thanks to David, VA Directive 1134. Luis, uh, uh, I was also diagnosed with PTSD at the VA C&P exam in 2008. It was documented in my VA letter. If I wish to file a claim for service connection for the condition, can I still file 16 years later? Yes, there's no limit. No limit to when you file. They're just not going to back pay you until, to that date. So you would want to put in a intent to file now. Put in an intent to file now. You can call the VA at their 1000 number and tell them that you want to put in an intent to file. They'll do that, and then you'll be able to have a year to get that claim filed, and then they'll back pay you to that date. All right. Moving on here, received my rating notification 100% PNT. Sweet. This is DD214 times 2. Nice. I was lowballed on most of my claims. Okay, that's all right. I have 4 different issues. Should I try to increase all my? Yes, absolutely. So this is good information right now for everybody. Here is the information. And look, I get it. People watch all the different channels. Good. Get information. What I have seen is there's a lot of conversation about making sure you get your claim approved, how to win your claim, right? But there's not a lot of information about getting the right rating. I've done videos on this, and maybe you've watched them, maybe you haven't. Here's the deal. There's 2 objectives that you have when you file your claim. 1, get it service connected, and 2, get the appropriate rating. So you need to make sure that you are supplying the correct information to the VA so that way they rate you appropriately. If not, then you risk this situation of getting lowballed. Well, now what has to happen is if you're lowballed, you need to go into your however many conditions. Again, schedule of ratings, read them, read the criteria for each rating, and see where you should fall, right? Sometimes, I'm just saying, sometimes we might feel like we're lowballed. Then you read the rating schedule and you're like, oh, okay, well, maybe I'm not lowballed. Maybe I am where I should be, right? Maybe I should be at whatever rating, right? As I read this. For example, my back sucks, right? I'm talking about, bracing my knees against the sink when I brush my teeth to bend over and spit out the toothpaste because I feel like I'm going to fall over. So my back affects my life. And, I get out of the car, and I know I'm saying this because I know you guys relate. So, you get out of the car, you drive to the grocery store, it takes you 10 minutes, you get out of the car and you're all hunched over because it takes you, 30 steps to start to stand up straight. But I'm rated 10%. I feel like I'm lowballed, but you read the rating schedule and you're like, okay, well, it is what it is. So I can't change the rating schedule. So read the rating schedule, make sure you understand it, read the criteria, whatever you should be rated for. You need to make sure that you take that same criteria and give it to your doctor to have them put that in your medical records. You can utilize a DBQ and make sure that they embed that into your DBQ, that same criteria from the rating schedule, and take that same information with you to your C&P exam. It's not a closed book test. They're not saying you can't bring in any paperwork to read. No, take it with you. This is important. I've said it before. Treat this like it's $1 million deal, because it is $1 million deal at the end of the day, right? So treat it like that. Go in with notes that you can read at your C&P exam. Nobody's saying that you can't. All right, so let's see. I got another one here. Antonio, thank you so much. Just to check for understanding, if I have an intent to file open and I'm now working on getting a GERD diagnosis, then file for GERD in June. I think I read this one already. Current rating schedule. Yeah, I did read that one. So yes, and yes, back to that. The other one here, Semper Fi from BCF. Semper Fi brother or sister, don't know. If diagnosed for 2 stressors, PTSD and MST, is it okay to put a claim in for both and let them decide? MST will be tougher because of lack of evidence. Sure. Yeah, there's no harm in putting in for both. You can just do one and talk about both instances, right? Or you could put in for both, and it's all going to get kind of combined anyway. So I would put in both and just document it all and throw it out there and see what happens. Why not? Thank you so much. Again, I appreciate you, BCF. All right, let's move back in here and see what is going on. So again, yes, increased lowballed claims, absolutely. And just for I guess awareness purposes, we've been going for 70 minutes now. I don't know. We'll keep pushing. Let me see if I have any texts or anything important real quick that I got to jump on. Don't see anything too pressing, so we'll continue to push. All right. So, hello, brother. I have PTSD CNP exam next week. All right. Any help? Tips? Be ready. Type of questions. I'm already triggered by what to expect. I heard the psych doctor is not veteran friendly. Well, that part sucks. And here's my advice on PTSD CNP exam. You could be in there for a little while. It's not a quick in and out. And for a lot of folks who typically just started to receive some sort of treatment, therapy, group, whatever you're in, right? Most of the time, there hasn't been a long time of that, right? So you may have had PTSD for a while, but you just started to go through the process. And now you're at a CNP exam. And now you're getting these questions and you're having to have the conversation and talk and all that stuff. You don't want to leave anything on the table. Let it out, and it's going to be emotional, and it's going to be heavy, and it's going to be draining, and you're going to want to take a nap afterwards. And after all that, it might not be a bad idea if you have a buddy that you can hook up with after the fact to go grab a coffee or whatever, right? It's just good juju, right? The one thing that will happen is they're going to kind of try to dig back into your childhood a little bit, and see if they can pinpoint anything back there. Try to be careful with that, and just be aware of it. Moving on, Longbow DD214 is a reply here personally. So if you didn't see that, DD214 Longbow replied with their own opinions on moving forward, which is they would not, if you go for a reevaluation, they could possibly reduce you. 100% PNT is everyone's goal. You made it. Just sit back and collect the check. So on that note, look, 100% PNT is awesome. Permanent and total means that the VA has essentially conceded to, look, none of your conditions are going to get better. You're most likely going to get worse over time. And we've basically wiped our hands, and we have no future exams for you because we have determined that. Why would you want to file an additional claim? It depends what it is, really, right? Why would you want to file another claim if you're already 100% permanent and total? This is not a full list of reasons. This is just a couple off the top of my head. Let's say that none of your conditions warrant a clothing allowance, but this new condition that you could file for does. Why not, right? Don't leave it on the table if it's a service-connected condition. So then you can get that allowance. Or let's say that maybe it's something that's going to move you over and into the special monthly compensation realm for additional income added to your current 100%, or move you all the way over to the 100%. That would be another reason. Or let's say that you're 100% permanent and total, but the new condition, I'll just use Vietnam vet, for example. So Vietnam vet example here has a bunch of physical ailment conditions that took them up to 100%. None of them are necessarily life-threatening, but also has hypertension. And the hypertension, because he served, or she served, they served in Vietnam, is a presumptive condition. And, it's going to be a pretty easy claim. Why would they want to file for that? Well, let's say that they have a history of heart problems in their family and with themselves, and they potentially are going to pass away from a heart attack if they had to guess. That's going to be the way it happens. Well, if they file for hypertension now and get awarded for it now while they're alive, it's going to make it easier for the surviving spouse if there's so much nuance. If they've been rated 100% less than 10 years, it's going to make it easier for their surviving spouse to obtain dependency indemnity compensation, right? Which pays out a base of about $1,630 per month, all the way up into the 3,000s if you have all these different, qualifiers. You're married for X amount of time, you require aid and attendance, you have children, whatever it is. So there's different add-ons that take it up into the over $3,000 range. So that would be another reason why. So it's very, just kind of depends, right? It's very nuanced. So moving on here, thank you so much. I'm not sure how to say it, Vinger. I have a 10% for tinnitus. I had a letter from my doctor stating more likely than not my migraines were connected to tinnitus with a prescription for the medication and others for years. Secondary still denied. Next steps. Appeal it, and it's the VA, right? Sometimes they don't get it right. What I would do is I would appeal it as a higher level review. I would point out that my doctor is stating that it is more than likely due to stumbling. Geez. All right. That migraines are more than likely due to my tinnitus, and go that route. And you can have that. Make sure that there's a little box on your higher level review that you have to check that will have you be able to have that informal conference, so you can point that out. If you're still denied, then I would just push it to the Board of Appeals, because the veterans law judges seem to be a little more, I guess, in line with the law than a VA rater. But that would be my kind of thing to go with it. But I would definitely appeal it if you haven't already. And if you have already and it was denied again, then I would push it to the board. So that's what I would do. Moving on. Let's see. Received notification, blah, 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 Longbow, got it. Lolo, I'm horrible at reading and names, so I apologize. I am a Vietnam veteran, released in 72, got married, had a daughter born in September of 74. Hey, I was born in September of 74. All right. She lived 1 hour. And the VA said they considered her death, filed a claim in 76, asked me for death certificate. All right. So, so I'm not sure. Do you have the death certificate? So Vietnam veteran, released 72, got married, had a daughter born September of 1974. She lived 1 hour, and the VA said they considered her death, I'm not sure what, filed a claim in 76. Then it says verse. I'm not sure if that means VA. I'm assuming so, since the S is next to the A. I had to look. Asked me for a death certificate. So I'm guessing that they needed, they need proof, right? So you could have had a conversation with them and all of that stuff. I would get the death certificate and file that. Moving on, Teddy Woodson. I was denied because examiners said there was an injury in service, but my current diagnosis is more than likely caused post-service. There was no evidence of a post-service injury. Why? Because they're fools. That's why. So you would file an appeal, and you would get double down on your evidence that it was in service. So whether you need to get buddy statements, a statement yourself, another Nexus letter if you don't have one, anything else that you have And I would write a statement that says that nowhere in my post-service life have I been in any situation that would have caused any sort of injury like this. But that's just your statement. You need to get a medical provider, right, to help you even further with regard to that. And again, remember that you're piling evidence up. I would file the appeal as a supplemental, and then if it denied again, I would then push it to the Board of Appeals with even more evidence against the Nexus aspect. So moving on, Bobby Reeves. My name is Bobby. How's it going, Bobby? How long does it take for a rater to look at your claim? They've had it since January. Called the VA. They said we're just waiting on him to rate it. All right. So number one, it depends geographically, right? Every kind of regional area is kind of at its own kind of time pace. Number two, sign on to va.gov, log in, and you should be able to review your progress, how your claim is moving along in the process. And then what you're going to want to do is follow that along. January to now is not horrific. Not sure. You didn't say that you had your C&P exam, although it does say that you were waiting for them to rate it. So I'm assuming that the C&P exam has already happened. And if that's happened, it's usually within a couple months of that it's going to be rated. So sign on to va.gov, check it out. You've called them. They said that they're just waiting on it. If it's been more than a couple months, more than 2 months since the C&P exam, I would call them again, the VA. And if they get the runaround, I would contact my accredited rep, have them reach out on my behalf, or contact my congressional office and have their Veterans Affairs liaison in the district office there reach out on my behalf. Longbow, 125 days is the goal for claims to be completed. Thank you again. Stephen and L Adventures. How is it going? Never filed a disability claim until 2019. Got out in 1980. And that is the story, right? Never too late. Yep, 10% for tinnitus. Good job that you got it in 2019. Then in 2023, filed for vertigo, was awarded 30%. So I'm at 40%. Never too late. Outstanding. Great job. And good story. Thank you for sharing. Grill Fit Warriors. Hi, I'm Desert Storm vet, rated 10% for anxiety and depression. How do I get an increase? So here's the thing. Number one, don't just file for an increase and go, we'll see what happens. Number one, read the schedule of ratings. Now, again, they're going to change here at some point, but read the current schedule of ratings for mental health. Read what it is for a 10% so you know where you're at. Then read it for the 30%. Read it for the 50%. Read it for the 70%. If you fit, you read it for the 100%, right? Read it for all of them. Whatever the highest rating is that you meet the criteria, good. But then you need to make sure that you're getting treatment, right? You can't just, self-diagnose, right? So you want to get in there, and now you know what the VA is looking for. You need to go to your treatment and make sure that you're articulating correctly to make sure that they have the information they need to rate you appropriately. Frank Brown, how's it going, Frank? Started with several different problems, got 50% for migraines. Outstanding, 50% is a great rating. It is the maximum for migraines, not impossible to get. Thanks to Frank. Thank you. It took a fall overseas in a deployment. After the 50% with the VFW, I turned around and filed supplemental claims. So sounds like there was other things other than the 50% for migraines. So awesome. Keep it moving. Moving on. S. Ferguson, VA canceled my 10 a.m. appointment today. Oh, showed up. Provider called in sick. Oh, very fun. Good for them. Moving on. Keep contesting your claims. Gideon 33, remember you're in the battle for your life and that of your loved ones. I agree, literally, right? Treat it like it's $1 million deal because it is, right? Please keep Haskell versus McDonough on your radar and do a video of implications when it finally decided. All right, I gotta write that down. Give me 1 second here. Not aware of that one actually, unless I just don't remember the name. Haskell versus. All right, got it. And I'll do a video on that. All right. Served 22 years, deployed 5 times. The VA here in Denver have been absolutely awful. And that's the story. It's like there's nothing really in the middle. It's either great experiences or horrible experiences. I know I've seen a lot of negative comments on Atlanta as well. Pappy Cody, man, that really screwed us on the insomnia rating. Yes. Scott Bell, don't ever give up. Took me 4 years. I had issues with examiners. I felt many were underqualified. Probably true. I fought their recordings and had an incredible VSO. I went from 10 to 40, back to 10, then 100. Whew, what a roller coaster, Scott. Glad you made it, though. David Santiago, again here. Let's see. William Wells, go Stan. Yep. And let's see. Still scrolling. We got about 30 more minutes just for folks to know on a little time hack here. About 30 more minutes. I'll try to get through as much of this as I can. And it jumps me around sometimes in these this little chat thing. Hello from Puerto Rico. What is going on? U.S. Army 12 Bravo combat engineer, 93% as of today. And man, it's hard to get that other 20, isn't it? That's the truth. Man, how is it in Puerto Rico? Hope it's going well over there. And 93 is a lot better than 85. So you're close enough to smell it anyway. So hope you get there soon. Let us know when you do. Always happy to see it when people make it. All right, let's see here. Boy, it is. Look, I'm not gonna lie. It's hard to get through all of these, all of your all's comments. I'm trying to stay in order and move through. And I guess that's the Virgo in me trying to stay organized, and it's almost like controlled chaos. So let's see here. MG, Vietnam vet, what is going on, brother? 75 years old, 100% to 0% non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. What a horrible situation. I hate how they reduce it so drastically. 70% PTSD, 10% tinnitus, 0% hypothyroid, 0% hypertension. Total is 73%. All are static. If I file for TDIU against the 0% lymphoma, will they try to reduce my 70% PTSD rating? So here's my answer. And this is there's so much to unpack in that, Mike. Number one, if you're only rated for cancer and your hope is to go into remission, and if you go into remission, then this is what happens. You get reduced. So it's very important that you also look at other things that you can file for, so you at least have some sort of continued rating. So that's number one, right? Don't ever, it's kind of like all the eggs in one basket thing. So that's an important piece. So number two is you need to know you better than anybody. And what I mean is that you need to refresh yourself with your PTSD rating, and you need to think about, okay, well, when was the last time that I went and was treated for PTSD? Now, obviously, they're all static. So you're good to go there. So you have that safety aspect because you probably had it for a while. So that's good. You're over 55, so that's also good in your favor. Depending on how long you've had the condition, there's also other protections that come into play. So just kind of with all of that, I would say you're probably safe from any sort of reductions in those ratings. mostly because of the age factor and the fact that the VA is already considering them static. So I don't think you're going to have any issues with that. Now, what you're going to want to do is when you go to file for TDIU, you need to leverage, which you alluded to here, you need to leverage your service-connected condition, or conditions, could be multiple, but that needs to be a reason why you can't continue to work. Now, can you have a big break in work since you file for it? Yes, it doesn't matter. I'm going to tell you a fast story. And look, this is going to be something that could be applicable for all of us in time. Well, if you're not already 100% permanent in total, or 100%. If you're not 100%, this could be applicable for you at some point. TDIU. Here's the quick story. My old neighbor, who I don't know, he might even be watching this. Great guy, awesome guy. Didn't know all the ins and outs of the VA when he got back from Vietnam. He went to file with the VA and was told he didn't qualify because he made too much money. What he didn't understand at that point was that the VA was a three-headed monster. You have the Benefits Administration, the Healthcare Administration, and the cemeteries. So he went to the Healthcare Administration, and they said, well, you make too much money to qualify for free healthcare with the VA. Well, he didn't know what he just was told he should go file for VA, and so he did, and he was told that he didn't qualify. So then 50 years go by approximately, and he meets me and we meet each other and we talk, and then he understands and he files for his claim, and he gets, I believe he gets a 70 or an 80% out the gate on his ratings. Then we file for TDIU, and he was awarded TDIU, and he hadn't worked for several years. So you can already not be working and file for TDIU. They will want to do a 5-year kind of look back on your employment opportunity or your employment history, and they may reach out and talk to your most recent employer. So that's just important to know and understand. And you want to really hone in on the fact you can't work is due to a service-connected condition or conditions. So let's move on. And I appreciate that question, Mike. So I would do it if I were you. I would file for it. All right, moving on here through some more. And again, we got about 25 minutes or so left here. And I'll just try to get through as many of these as I can. I'm just kind of scrolling and trying to pick out some. So I'm not meaning to skip people, and I apologize if I do. So willpower, 1987 in service records show gastroenteritis. Is this enough to file for GERD or IBS? So what you need to do, great that you have anything in your service treatment records, very important. And then the next question is do you have GERD or IBS? The answer is yes. Did you self-diagnose, or do you have a diagnosis from a doctor? If the answer is self-diagnosed, then go get diagnosed by a doctor. Then what you could do to double down is have the conversation with your doctor on my in-service records show this, and can you write a letter, essentially like a Nexus letter, connecting the progression, right? That this is essentially a sign or a symptom of my GERD or your IBS or whatever it is. And then have them write that letter stating that it is at least likely is not, or more than likely associated with your time in service as evidenced by your gastroenteritis. I don't know how to fully say it. So that's what I would do. Absolutely. All right. So moving on here, Vivian Sanchez, 74 to 75. Have a 20% for left knee. Now I need a total knee replacement. Can I get 100% for 4 months of recovery? Yes. So if you're going in for a service-connected condition, surgery in this case, and it takes you more than a month to rehabilitate, you can put in for temporary 100%. It's 3-month increments is how they kind of do it. You can go up to 3 months. So if your doctor says, hey, look, I want to see you back 2 months after the surgery and see how you're doing, I want you to take it easy, then you can get it for 2 months. If the doctor sees you in the 2 months and they say, hey, look, I need you to go out for another 2 months and come back again, make sure things are healing right. We're on kind of a slow path here. I want to see you again, and I just want you to rest and not do anything. Then you could potentially get that an additional 2 months. Or if they say 3 months out the gate, then it's 3 months and then another month or whatever. So yes, you should be able to. Moving on from Lee here. VA will back pay you, but you will have to have that money withheld once you have your approved VA claim. That's an answer for somebody there. Next one, you've been at 20% since 2005 for your back and feet, each at 10%. Finally got to 90%. I got a lot of info from the Veterans Info Tab channel, and just want to say thank you. Semper Fi, Iraq Vet, 2002 to 2005. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you. All right, moving back on here. Michael, 10% for tinnitus, 0% hearing loss in left ear, both service connected. Should I file Meniere's disease secondary to tinnitus or file for an increase on the 0% for hearing loss? Well, it depends, right? If your hearing loss doesn't warrant any change because the rating schedule sucks, then why file for it if you're truly a 0? For Meniere's disease has the ability to be diagnosed with or without tinnitus. So you would have to go get diagnosed for Meniere's disease, which is, it's an unsteady gait. It's kind of a vertigo thing going on and all of that. And it can or cannot have tinnitus. So if you have, and here's the thing, if you have Meniere's disease, you might not have tinnitus with your Meniere's disease, or you might have it with your Meniere's disease. I know you're already service connected for it, but then you would just file for Meniere's disease, period, because you're diagnosed for it. I can't remember how many ratings there are for it. You'd have to look in the schedule of ratings. And again, here's a little tidbit for the schedule of ratings. For those of you that have ever tried to look at the schedule of ratings, it can be a bit cumbersome. It's a little bit chunky and clunky to kind of get through. If you have a hard time actually going through the real schedule of ratings and navigating it and finding what you're looking for, you can just Google search VA schedule of ratings and your condition name. And then there's going to be those lawyers, the top, 5 lawyers or so are going to float up in the Google search. And they basically extracted that information from the VA schedule of ratings and put it in their website and gave you an overview of that. So you can also read it there. So October, Opal, thank you for the Ura Marine. I appreciate it. Let's move on here. Let's see. Alex Gonzalez, what can I do? What can I do to claim OCD and anxiety now under my service time? So here's the thing. What you have to do is, again, with any condition that is not presumptive, you must look at your time in service, entry date, exit date. Look at your condition. Get diagnosed by a doctor, a real doctor, right? You can't self-diagnose. Get a diagnosis. That diagnosis must be something that's chronic or has some sort of residual kind of aspect to it, an ongoing problem. Then you have to create a nexus, a link between your condition and your time in service. So what the VA is looking for here is Prove to me that your condition manifested during your time in service or as a result of your time in service. Now, again, the easiest way is if you got diagnosed while you're in service for that specific condition. Chances are you weren't. If you were not, then the next best thing you need to do is look at your service treatment records and see if you made any mention of any signs or symptoms of those conditions, right? For example, I'm going to use GERD because for those of you that have watched my channel for a while know I love to use GERD as an example. So GERD, you may not have documented it during your time in service. However, you may have on a annual health assessment, you may have checked the box that said heartburn. There's a sheet, at least there has been, where it says, have you now or have you ever experienced any of the following? And it has whatever, 50 different conditions. And you check yes, no, maybe, or not applicable actually. Yes, no, not applicable. And one of them is heartburn. You may have checked the box that says heartburn. Well, heartburn is a symptom of GERD. So you didn't say you had GERD, but you said you had heartburn. And that form was signed by some physician's assistant or some sort of a medical provider, probably in 04, 03, no, probably not in 03, probably in 04, 05, probably signed it, and off it went. Now it's a piece of medical evidence. So then you could utilize that with your doctor who diagnoses you for GERD, and they write you a Nexus letter using that as rationale and evidence to base their Nexus letter on. So very, very important as well. So we've got about 20 more minutes, and then we're going to call it, I think, but we'll keep moving through the best I can. So let's see. Favorable findings. Okay, so this is favorable willpower. Thanks for this one. Favorable findings. Anxiety due to failure to perform. What the heck is that? So, well, favorable findings is something that the VA will put in your decision letter. So oftentimes, if you're denied on something, most of us just get irritated and throw the paperwork, right? As soon as you see that you weren't approved. But if you read through it, it tells you the things that the VA found that were favorable for you during your time in service. So for an example, maybe somebody was denied and for anxiety or depression or what have you. And it says this statement, anxiety due to failure to perform. Well, what the heck is that? That's the question. And I don't have all of the backdrop here to be able to really read into it. But there could have been something in your military records that alluded to some sort of a failure to perform something at some point, right? Which could have created some sort of anxiety, right? So it could have been anything. Who knows? I don't know what they found in the records, but you would want to flip through and see. And this is why, in this case, that was a favorable finding. So something good for your case. Remember, everything bad is good. So the more bad things you can show, the better off you'll probably be. Now, the idea here is you really want to make sure that you read everything that you submit to the VA. My take here is even so much as the VA gives you the option to allow them to contact your doctors and get all of your medical records. I personally don't like that idea. I want to be the arbiter of my information. I want to be the person who controls what the VA gets and not the other way around. So I will reach out to my doctors, former, present, whatever, and get the information that I need to support my claim in the fashion in which I want to have it supported. And then I will submit that information. There's no need for them to see this stuff over here that I was seen for, or whatever the case is, right? So just another kind of important piece. Be the person who controls the information to the VA. Let's see, moving on here. Teddy Woodson, it says, I was denied because examiner said there is an injury in service, but my current diagnosis is more likely caused to a post-service event. Oh, I already answered this one. It was a good one. So anyway, yeah, that's pretty horrible. To do the appeal on that or higher level review. Moving on, let's see. If the VA cannot directly connect you, the rater will look into the secondary aspect. That's a good point. Go Stan, again there from Will Wells. Thank you. Stan appreciates it. For those that didn't see one of the recent videos, I lost a bet to Stan, and he had me wearing rooster gear. And that was fun. All right, so let's see. Can you file for TDIU if you never worked besides the military? Yeah, there's no limitations in that sense. But I don't have an employment history in the U.S., but my profile is driving trucks. You can. I mean, what's the worst case scenario, right? They say no. So absolutely, go for it. See if you can, see what happens. If you believe that one of your service-connected conditions is not going to, is making it not able for you to work. Another aspect for that type of a situation would be, let's say that you can work, but not necessarily in your profession, right? You need a new profession. You could utilize VRE, Veterans Readiness and Employment, and utilize that program in order to get retrained or get a degree or whatever it is, or become self-employed. If they end up sending you to a school, and there's two things here. This one's kind of important. For VRE, Veterans Readiness and Employment, they have two different stipend programs that you can fall into. One is the regular one that pays out, if you go to school full-time, about $1,100 per month that they'll pay you while you're going through whatever program that they send you through, if it's full-time. If you're going to, let's say, school full-time and you have any post 9/11 GI Bill remaining, I'm talking 2 weeks worth. If you have any post 9/11 GI Bill dollars remaining, they will pay you out the housing stipend that's associated with post 9/11. And there is a cap on this one, though. It's about $3,200 per month. So they will pay you up to $3,200 a month stipend while you're going through the program. So if you have a decent rating and you're getting a decent amount for the stipend, that's a good place to be as well. So let's jump back into here. VA will always request a file from your doctor. If it's a VA doctor, I'm guessing. Otherwise, they have to get approval from you because they don't even know who your doctor is. So again, I would be the controller of my information. Moving on. Yeah, Lee is on it. Good job. I appreciate it, sister. File. Yes to all of those. The village chiefs. Let's see. Does the VA update the claim status on their website in real time, or will the decision letter come first? Typically, it's and man, Lee, you are on it, man. So typically it is in real time. You will typically, like Lee said, you'll see a direct deposit in your account before you get the letter, because it's about a 10-day mailing time frame. But by the time it processes through the VA, and with that, you will be able to get your award letter, essentially your benefits letter, proof of your service compensation, online. So as you go to the letters, you can see your letter. So saying what your percentage is and so forth online before you'll get it in the mail. If you don't receive your decision letter within 10 days of them saying that it's been decided, then your accredited veteran reps and all of those folks should be able to get that information for you as well. Let's see. So we got about 10 more minutes until I pull the plug. I'm going to try to scroll through here, see if I could find any more that we could jump on. Let's see here. Um, let's see. Another boy, Lee is on it. Good job, sister. So this one was it was a response to Georgia Army Vet 50 says you have to make all your appointments. If you don't continue with medical care, then it'll prove that you aren't ill. Ask your doctor what the best appointment schedule is for you. Great advice, and that's why I read it. Thank you so much. Totally support that. You would be surprised, or probably not, but you know, the folks will get rated, for PTSD and get a 70% rating, and then they'll just stop going to treatment, and then they get a re-examination 3-4 years later, and then they get reduced, and they wonder why. So that's important. A couple things that I'm going to throw out here, just as we got a few minutes, is one, again, we talked about it a couple times. We have the change that's coming up. That's real. The real change for the digestive system is coming up. They've made a few changes with regard to IBS, hemorrhoids, GERD, and COPD. They're all good except for the GERD one is kind of weird because the GERD situation, if you currently have GERD, and that's a gastroesophageal reflux disease, bad heartburn, it's currently being rated under hiatal hernia, which is essentially you got pain in your sternum, you have heartburn, you have regurgitation, you have vomit, you may have blood in your vomit, you may have blood in your stool, you have pain in your shoulder and your arm, and it could cause an impairment to your health, such as esophageal cancer because of the acids moving up in there. So that's what it's being rated under currently. The maximum rating is 60%. Okay. And the criteria that I just gave you is basically what you would be looking at for a 60% rating, with or without the blood in the stool or the vomit. There could also be material weight loss associated as well. But that's loosely what they're kind of looking for, but not all inclusively. So they're looking for stuff around that to get to the 60% rating for GERD. However, if you have GERD, but you don't file today, or you don't file an intent to file today, and instead you wait a month or two, and then you file, well, now the new rating schedule is going to take effect. The new rating schedule is under esophageal stricture, which is completely different. In fact, it is so different, it does not include any of the things that I said to you, except for difficulty swallowing, is really the only thing that is a common symptom on those two rating schedules, which is really interesting to me. So that's the bad news. The good news is that under the esophageal stricter rating schedule, they're actually looking at a maximum rating of 80%. So that's good. But I venture to say that most people with GERD are going to probably, most, not all, there's going to be some that are going to rate 80%. I get it. But most people, I believe, are going to be able to get a higher rating under the current rating schedule versus the new coming rating schedule. What can you do? You can file an intent to file today, and that buys you 12 months to get it together and file it. And the VA will utilize both rating schedules to rate you, and then they will assign you the highest rating, whatever rating schedule that is, because you've crossed the threshold between the before and after the rating schedule change. So you get to play both schedules, which is really important. So that's one thing. Another thing that I wanted to point out here is the proposal change for Agent Orange locations and time frames to include many bases throughout the U.S., as well as Canada and India, I believe. And I'm just going off the top of my head now. I don't really remember, all the locations, but I think it's just those 3. So they're expanding the locations to include places where Agent Orange was used, stored, and tested in the US, Canada, and India. This is really, really important because once that goes into effect, what is going to happen is anybody who served in those locations are going to be able to utilize the presumptive list. And utilizing that presumptive list is going to open up a whole world of benefits that you may not be aware of. So things like diabetes, ischemic heart disease, a whole host of cancers, hypertension, all that stuff. So that's really important. Utilize the presumptive lists for whatever presumptive period you may have fallen into if you're in any of those situations where you have a presumptive list. I will tell you this. You might not have the conditions today, but let me tell you something. The presumptive lists for cancers and other illnesses are a scary view to the future, because you have to think about it like this. This is just for our own health at this point, taking care of each other. If you have a presumptive window and you qualify for presumptive conditions, but you don't have them, what those presumptive conditions are, including cancers, are a sneak peek at what you are more likely to come down with than your civilian counterpart. That's why they're presumptives. Because you served here during this time period, you, my friend, are more likely to come down with these conditions. So what does that mean? It means let your doctor know, if it's not a VA doctor, right? And even your VA doctor, let them know. Sometimes they're not even fully aware. Let your doctor know, hey, I am more likely to come down with one of these conditions than my civilian counterpart because of my time in service over here or over there, right? So that way they know to look, they're going to test you maybe a little bit earlier than they would normally for certain things, and to keep a lookout for stuff, right? I want to make sure that we all are taken care of in that way. So just kind of an important piece to add in there. So a couple more minutes here. Let's see. So willpower, should have I filed for him, just mentioning insomnia since they pinned that it was a favorable finding. I was just stunned he gave an opinion on something I didn't even file for. Okay. Yeah, they do that sometimes. Sometimes what happens is with the VA is they will actually, through the discovery process and through the C&P exam, if they notice other conditions that would have been service connectable, they're going to give you kind of a little head nod to, hey, look, you need to file for this. So you should file. Is ITF used for? No, it's not. You just file for it for your FOIA. Moving on, can you please explain more detail on chemical exposure at the Superfund base to diagnosis with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and melanoma for chemicals? So I'm going to have to do a video on it, but there is some information that's out, different reports and so forth. What I would do if it were me and I wanted to file for any of that stuff, what you would want to do is you would want to pull up any sort of information you can, any studies, any sort of documents that you can get that speak to any sort of higher risks for people there, and then utilize that to take to your doctor, to have your doctor be able to utilize that as rationale for their Nexus letter stating that your cancer is more than likely due to your time in service at this specific location during these specific time frames. Let's see. Last one, my VA doc told me I should look into filing for eczema under the burn pit stuff. I looked into it, and it doesn't look like I would have a shot at anything without having further issues. So, yeah, I mean, it depends, right? It depends how severe the stuff is. Look at ratings of the rating schedules, see what's there, see where you fall on it. If it was kind of there and then it went away and you're not really having an ongoing problem, if it's cured, so to speak, you would have a harder time. So with that, we're going to go ahead and end it here. I appreciate each and every one of you. We got 2 hours in, so I really, really appreciate all of your support and all of your engagement. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you. Have a great one. And remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.